So we focus now on how you can minimize risk as a company that relies on SIM cards for machine-to-machine communication and other enterprise-level solutions. Criminals continue to find ways to infiltrate organizations, running huge bills on your business SIM cards in various underhanded ways. This evening, we look at the cost of this practice and how your business can minimize the risk. And joining us now is Hein Koen, who's co-founder of Flickswitch. Hein, thanks so much for your time today. So just how bad is fraud around SIM cards for businesses?
A lot of it is hidden because it gets sort of seen as an expense of doing business. But I think most companies who you talk to, especially companies managing large numbers of SIM cards, if you get to the right people, you'll understand that it is quite a big problem and that there is a lot of wastage in terms of SIM cards.
And maybe just give us some examples, the difference, I suppose, between wastage and the fraud and what
Yes, and
happens.
there's two categories, basically. I mean, the one is really sort of overusage, or SIM cards that are in data devices that are using much more data than they should. Not sometimes used to not necessarily because of fraud, but because of machines or updates happening and just spend running over. I'm sure a lot of us...
All your apps just keep updating.
Exactly. So there's this sort of hidden cost around the company using much more data and incurring a lot of costs that they really shouldn't be incurring. That's the one side. The other side is really on the fraud side, and this is where the risks can be quite big. Imagine being responsible for thousands of SIM cards that are out there in the field. You as a financial manager, the risks associated with the wrong SIM falling into the wrong hand can be hundreds of thousands of rands. We've had a number of cases, sort of over R1 million, in fact. So, it could be quite a big financial risk to a company. I think some companies have started to sort of get better at managing that risk, but it is real. Some of it is swept slightly under the carpet and seen as sort of cost of doing business. But there are quite sophisticated syndicates operating as well who'd love to get their hands on specific SIM cards.
I suppose you can afford, if you're a bigger business, to say it's a cost of doing business, but if you're a small business or a small or medium-sized enterprise, this can be a big chunk of your income.
It can. I mean, I know of one particular case of a startup business who actually went out of business because of a cellular bill around one single SIM card. I mean, it's not something that happens that often, I guess, but it's a real example. So, the fact of having an open-ended SIM card in a device that is accessible to people who know exactly how to manipulate corporate accounts, and you get this what they call bill shock. It's around only knowing what you're spending after the fact. There's no way of going back and undoing the event. So it is a big problem. Some sort of syndicates are much more sophisticated in terms of getting into specific corporate accounts. These are accounts who have very large limits in terms of spending, so it's only picked up again after the fact.
So I suppose it's a balance between ensuring that your employees are able to get their work done and that they are they don't face the headache of not being able to access their work, while at the same time you need to protect your business. How do you meet that balance then?
Yes, and it's SIM cards and data SIM cards have become so important in doing business these days, and especially when you're talking about devices communicating with each other. There are a few ways you can do it. The first way is to make sure you're using the right type of SIM for that application. So, allowing your company to have open-ended post-build SIMs that are just, freely used within devices or by users, that's already a flag that you should be looking at. A lot of companies are in fact switching to prepaid. I travel quite a lot on the continent, and when I walk into a multinational company in Lagos, there is no such a thing as a corporate cell phone account. It's just normal to have a prepaid account. The other thing to look at is there are various tools these days to actually manage SIM cards better, and there are various ways, both in terms of prepaid SIM cards as well as postpaid SIM cards, but there are online tools available. There are ways that you can make sure that the SIMs that you are deploying are limited in terms of the risks that they can incur, the costs that they can incur.
Now, I suppose also you were talking about, imagine being a business that's or the business manager that's trying to track 1,000 SIM cards. Are there applications, are there tools that one can use to track that number of SIM cards?
some companies at the moment, we've got clients who are using 20, 30,000 SIMs in one single company. So the numbers and the explosion around the Internet of Things and machine-to-machine communications is really fueling that. And there are several tools that can manage your spend, that can, on SIM level, make sure that SIMs are not overspending and that you know what you're spending before a bill arrives. So you can decide how much you'd like to spend as you go along. And I think it gives a lot of financial managers and FDs much better sleep to know that they're not going to have bill shock in terms of a bill arriving for a few R100,000. Yeah.
Thanks, Hein. Thanks
Pleasure.
for your time today. Hein Koen is co-founder of Flickswitch. We'll be back with more here on eNCA Moneyline, your money guide, after the break. Stay with us.